The night Manhattan glittered like a bowl of diamonds. Harlow Bennett clutched her belly in the dim hallway of her tiny Brooklyn apartment, gasping for air. Her pregnancy had been rough for weeks, but tonight the pain sliced through her like broken glass. She reached for her phone, hands trembling, dialing the one person who should have been there. Her husband? Chase Everett. The call didn't even ring. Blocked. And somewhere above Fifth Avenue, inside a penthouse at the Langham, Chase was tangled in silk sheets with his mistress, laughing as he tossed his phone aside. He had told Harlow he was working late, but the champagne chilling beside the bed said otherwise. The city lights framed their silhouettes like a cruel joke. Harlow was fighting for breath. Chase was fighting to choose between two overpriced desserts on the room service menu. Another cramp racked her abdomen. She doubled over. "Not now, please." Her vision blurred as she slid down the wall. She tried calling again, straight to voicemail. She texted him. No reply. Instead, her screen lit up with a message from an unknown number. "Stop calling. He's busy with me." That was the moment something inside Harlow cracked, not just physically, but deeper, somewhere hope used to live. She tasted metal, fear, and the horrible realization she was alone. A neighbor found her collapsed and panicked, calling an ambulance. Sirens tore through the night, drowning the hum of the city. As paramedics lifted her into the stretcher, Harlow's mind replayed the words she once believed. "Chase will never abandon you." By the time she arrived at Mount Sinai, her condition had worsened. A doctor rushed to her side, eyes sharp, voice steady. "I'm Dr. Rowan Maxwell. You and your baby are in danger. Stay with me." His hand wrapped around hers, firm, warm, present. Something her husband had forgotten how to be. And in that moment, as the city spun outside the hospital windows, Harlow's world began to split in two, one side ending, the other waiting to rise from the ashes. Harlow Bennett had never imagined her life would shrink into a single room, one she could barely afford, with peeling paint and a window that rattled every time the subway rumbled past. Before the pregnancy, she once believed stability was within reach. She worked long shifts as a lab technician at Mount Sinai, saving every penny, dreaming of a small home with warm light, a backyard, and a husband who cherished her. Instead, she found herself clutching her stomach each morning, whispering to her unborn daughter that everything would be okay even when she wasn't sure it was true. Harlow had always been the quiet one, the type of woman who apologized when someone bumped into her. Growing up in Ohio, she learned early that kindness was easier than conflict, and silence was safer than asking for more. When she met Chase Everett at a medical fundraiser, she mistook confidence for devotion, mistook charm for goodness. He swept her into a fast romance filled with expensive dinners and promises whispered under city lights. She thought he saw her, when, in truth, he only saw what she offered, loyalty that asked for nothing. Now, 6 months pregnant, loyalty had become her greatest weakness. She still remembered the way Chase's voice changed months earlier, how it grew colder, shallower, as if talking to her cost him something. He began coming home late, claiming meetings kept him out. He criticized the way she ate, the way she walked, even the way pregnancy made her move slower. She laughed it off, believing stress made him harsh. She believed everything except the truth. Yet every morning before work, she still made him coffee. She still ironed his shirts. She still waited up for him, even when waiting hurt. Because deep down, she hoped the man she married was hiding under the surface somewhere. But the truth was simpler and crueler. Chase Everett wasn't losing interest. He had already left. Still, Harlow held on because she wasn't fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for the tiny heartbeat fluttering inside her. Her daughter deserved a father. She deserved a peaceful home. And as much as Harlow feared the future, she feared raising a child alone even more. But life has a strange way of pushing people where they need to go, especially those who've stayed too long in places where love has already died. And what Harlow didn't know, what she couldn't possibly imagine, was that her world was seconds away from breaking open. Manhattan never slept, but that night it felt almost cruel in its brightness. The city glowed with a kind of glittering indifference, taxis speeding past, neon lights flickering over wet pavement, skyscrapers shining like polished knives against the sky. And somewhere between those towers of glass and steel, Harlow Bennett's world was quietly collapsing in real time. Mount Sinai's emergency entrance buzzed with urgency. Stretchers rolled in, Nurses darted across the hallways, and the sterile scent of antiseptic clung to everything like a second skin. For Harlow, the hospital had always been a place of purpose, her workplace, her rhythm, her source of quiet pride. Standing there now as a patient felt like stepping into a nightmare she wasn't ready to face. "Deep breaths, Miss Bennett," a nurse urged as they wheeled her inside, but the pain twisting through Harlow's stomach made the words float away like smoke. The fluorescent lights above blurred into long streaks of white, and each bump of the stretcher sent another shiver up her spine. Across the city, the contrast couldn't have been sharper. At the Langham, Fifth Avenue, Chase Everett was lounging in a luxury suite that smelled of expensive whiskey and jasmine perfume. He was propped against a velvet headboard, the New York skyline stretching behind him like a private painting. His mistress, Serena Cole, curled beside him in silk, laughing as she held up her phone, angling it to catch both her face and Chase's arm in the frame. "Should I post it?" she teased. Chase smirked. "Only if you want to make her suspicious." Her, meaning Harlow, the wife he'd all but forgotten tonight. Meanwhile, Harlow fought to stay conscious as the elevator doors closed, carrying her deeper into the hospital she once walked through with confidence. Now, the hallways felt colder, stretching longer than she remembered. Her breath caught fear, tightening her grip on the thin blanket covering her. That's when Dr. Rowan Maxwell appeared at the foot of her bed. "Room 3. Move fast," he instructed the staff, then leaned closer to her. "Harlow, I'm here. Stay with me." His voice didn't rise above the chaos, but it anchored her in a way she desperately needed. And for the first time that night, she felt a steady presence beside her, strong, unwavering, nothing like the man who had promised to protect her. Outside the hospital windows, Manhattan sparkled on, unaware that one woman's life was shifting, inch by inch, toward a storm she never asked for, yet had no choice but to face. Chase Everett had perfected the art of pretending. To the outside world, he was the polished, successful marketing executive with a flawless smile and a wardrobe full of tailored suits. People admired him for his confidence, never realizing confidence was often just arrogance with better lighting. Chase thrived on attention, and New York fed him exactly that. Every room he walked into, he behaved like he owned it. Every conversation, he steered toward his own greatness. And every promise he made, he broke the moment it became inconvenient. Back at the Langham, Serena Cole lay across the plush sofa, scrolling through messages on her rose gold phone. She was the kind of woman Chase gravitated toward, young, ambitious, and hungry for glamour. Serena liked luxury the way a starving man liked bread, and Chase's money gave her a taste of a world she'd always wanted. "You should tell her," Serena said casually, tapping her phone screen. "Tell who?" Chase replied, adjusting his cufflinks though he wasn't wearing a shirt. "Your wife," she said with a smirk. "You know about us." Chase scoffed. "Harlow, she's too busy playing mother to even notice. Besides, I'm doing her a favor. She's not built for my lifestyle." He said it with the ease of someone discussing a faulty appliance, not the woman carrying his child. Serena's laugh was soft, cruel. "And here I thought you married her for love." "I married her because she was safe," Chase corrected. "Predictable, but safety gets boring. I need someone who can keep up with me." The irony, of course, was that Harlow had spent years supporting his ambitions, paying bills when he couldn't, encouraging him through failures, standing by him while he reinvented himself. Chase saw none of that. He only saw what he lacked, and projected it onto her. What he didn't realize was that the cracks he created in their marriage were widening, forming a chasm he'd never be able to cross again. Meanwhile, at Mount Sinai, the monitors around Harlow beeped urgently. "Doctor?" Rowan Maxwell worked with sharp focus, unaware that the child he was trying to save had a father who felt burdened by the idea of responsibility. "Her stress levels are too high," Rowan muttered. "She shouldn't be going through this alone." But she was, because Chase made sure of it. While Harlow fought to protect the life inside her, Chase was sipping top-shelf whiskey, believing he was untouchable, believing consequences were for other people. He had no idea that the night he chose pleasure over his family would become the night his entire world began to unravel. The longer Harlow lay in the hospital bed, the more the room seemed to tilt, not physically, but emotionally, as if her world was shifting in ways she couldn't control. Machines hummed steadily beside her, their soft beeping a fragile reminder that her baby was still fighting. "Doctor?" Rowan Maxwell stood near the foot of the bed, reviewing her vitals with eyes that didn't miss a thing. "Harlow," he said gently, "your blood pressure is dangerously high. Stress like this, it puts both you and your daughter at risk." She nodded weakly, but her mind wasn't on the monitors. It was on Chase. Why wasn't he here? Why wasn't he answering? Rowan continued, "We're doing everything we can, but you need calm and emotional support. Is there anyone I can call? Family? A partner?" The hesitation in his voice revealed he already suspected the truth. "No," she whispered. "It's just me." The vulnerability in her tone made Rowan's jaw tighten. A woman this strong shouldn't have been abandoned in her weakest moment. He'd seen it before, partners who disappeared the moment pregnancy became inconvenient. But something in Harlow's eyes told him. Her story ran deeper, darker. Meanwhile, across the city in the Langham's penthouse, Chase and Serena were sprawled across Egyptian cotton sheets, their laughter rising above the faint hum of traffic below. Serena reached for a chocolate-covered strawberry and traced it along Chase's jawline. "You're really not going home tonight?" she teased. Chase grinned lazily. "Home is overrated." Serena rolled her eyes. "Your wife doesn't call this late unless it's an emergency." "She'll figure it out," he replied, completely unfazed. "She always does." Back in the hospital, Harlow suddenly clutched her abdomen as another wave of pain spread across her belly. The monitors spiked. "Doctor," a nurse shouted. Rowan rushed to her side instantly. "Harlow, look at me. Stay awake." Deep breaths. Tears filled her eyes, not from the pain, but from the fear that she might lose the one thing keeping her going, her child. "What if something happens to her?" Harlow choked out. Rowan's voice softened, steady as a heartbeat. "I won't let that happen. You're not alone, Harlow." "Not anymore." His words, gentle yet firm, wrapped around her like a safety net, something she hadn't felt in months, maybe years. Outside, snow began to fall lightly over Manhattan, blanketing the city in cold, quiet inevitability. And miles away, Chase Everett had no idea that while he was busy choosing pleasure over responsibility, the life he'd abandoned was slipping closer to disaster, one he couldn't charm, lie, or smile his way out of. The soft rhythm of machines filled the dimmed hospital room, but for Harlow, every sound felt too loud, too sharp, too close. Her body trembled beneath the thin blanket as another contraction rippled through her, too early, too dangerous. Rowan stayed nearby, giving orders with calm urgency, but even his steady voice couldn't quiet the storm breaking inside her. Her throat tightened. I can't do this alone." It slipped out before she could swallow it back. A confession, a fracture, a truth she'd hidden under months of forced strength. Rowan pulled a chair closer. "Harlow, listen to me. Your body is reacting to extreme stress. You need rest, not fear." His eyes softened. "Tell me what's really happening." And for the first time, she did. Words spilled from her, trembling and uneven, about Chase's late nights, the messages she found, the way he looked at her like she was a burden instead of his wife. She admitted she'd been scared to confront him, scared he'd leave, scared that being abandoned pregnant made her weak. Rowan shook his head gently. "Weak? Harlow, you walked in here fighting for your daughter's life when someone else should have been carrying half the weight? That's strength." His voice steadied her heartbeat for a moment until her phone buzzed on the bedside table. A new message. From Serena. "You should stop calling. He's asleep with me. Let him rest." Her breath caught, her vision blurred. And though she had prepared herself for this truth, seeing it written so boldly shattered whatever hope was left. The monitor beside her spiked again. "Harlow," Rowan said, leaning forward, "look at me. Don't let their cruelty take something from you that you've fought so hard for." But the dam had already cracked. Tears welled, spilling hot down her cheeks. She hadn't cried in months, not when Chase forgot appointments, not when he stopped touching her, not when he told her she was too emotional. But here, under hospital lights, surrounded by strangers who cared more than her own husband, she broke. "I did everything right," she whispered. "I gave him everything, and it still wasn't enough." Rowan reached for her trembling hand, a gesture warm, grounding. Some people don't recognize gold even when they're holding it. Her sobs softened into small, shaking breaths. Exhaustion pulled her under, her eyelids fluttering closed as the monitors steadied slightly. Rowan stayed beside her, refusing to leave. Outside, the snowstorm picked up, wind slamming against the hospital windows as if echoing her unraveling. And miles away, Chase Everett slept comfortably in a luxury suite, unaware that while he drifted through dreams, the woman he abandoned was drowning in a reality she never deserved. Morning crept into Manhattan with a pale, winter light, but inside Harlow's hospital room, the world felt frozen in place. She had barely slept. Each time she drifted off, she jolted awake, remembering Serena's message, each word like a dagger pressing against her chest. Chase was sleeping peacefully beside another woman while she fought to keep their daughter alive. But as the sun rose, something shifted. Rowan entered quietly, holding a tablet with her latest results. "Harlow," he began, "I have news. Not bad, but important." Her heart clenched. "Is she okay?" "She's stable for now," he reassured, "but your stress is still a major risk. We need to protect both of you, and that means removing whatever is harming your emotional health." She swallowed hard. "You mean Chase?" Rowan didn't answer immediately. Instead, he tapped the tablet, turning the screen toward her. "Your emergency contact information was updated recently." Harlow frowned. "Updated? I didn't change anything. That's why it caught my attention." Rowan zoomed in, and her breath hitched. Her husband had removed himself as her primary emergency contact. He had replaced his name with Serena's. A slow, stunned disbelief washed over Harlow. She felt as though the world tilted beneath her. Chase hadn't just left her alone. He had made it official, written in a hospital system, as if she'd become an inconvenience he could pass off to someone else. Rowan watched her reaction carefully. "Harlow, this wasn't an accident. Someone deliberately logged in and made that change." "Why would he?" She stopped. Because she already knew the answer. Chase wasn't planning to come back. Not just tonight, not ever. But Rowan wasn't finished. "There's something else," he said. "The staff told me Serena called earlier. She asked for updates on your condition. And the babies." Harlow froze. "Serena? Asking about her pregnancy?" Rowan continued. "She told the nurse she needed information so she could make decisions if the situation changed." For a moment, Harlow couldn't breathe. Serena wasn't just a mistress. She was trying to take her place. The betrayal, the audacity, the calculated intrusion, it all crashed over Harlow like a wave. Something inside her, something quiet and small that had been hiding for months, finally snapped. She wiped her tears with the back of her shaking hand. "No," she whispered, "this ends today. Chase doesn't get to decide my future." Rowan nodded with a steady, almost protective calm. "Good, because you're stronger than what he tried to make you believe." And beneath the weight of devastation, a new fire flickered. The beginning of a storm one Harlow would no longer run from. For the first time in months, Harlow Bennett sat upright in her hospital bed, with a clarity she hadn't felt since before her pregnancy began. The exhaustion remained, the pain lingered, but something deeper had changed. A fuse had been lit, quiet, steady, unstoppable. Rowan noticed it immediately when he stepped into the room. "You look different," he said, studying her with a mixture of concern and curiosity. "I feel different," she replied. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was firm in a way that made Rowan's brows lift. "I'm done being the woman people walk over. Chase doesn't get to define who I am anymore." Rowan nodded slowly. "Good, use that, but pace yourself. Transformation isn't about speed, it's about direction." She managed a soft smile. "You sound like someone who's lived this." A flicker crossed his expression. Pain? Memory? He didn't say, but he didn't need to. She sensed a history behind him, something heavy he carried quietly. For a moment, they weren't doctor and patient. They were two people who had both learned something the hard way. "Sometimes," Rowan said gently, "your rebirth starts the moment someone tries to bury you." Harlow felt those words settle inside her, like warm light. Later that afternoon, a social worker came by to review her situation. Chase should have been there, should have signed forms, should have answered questions, but he didn't show. Not even a message, not even a call. Instead of breaking, Harlow breathed deeply and answered every question with calm strength. When the social worker left, Rowan returned with her lunch tray. "You handled that better than most people in your position," he said. "I'm learning that no one's coming to save me," she replied, "so I have to save myself." She looked down at her belly, gently laying a hand over the curve. "And her." Outside the window, Manhattan's skyline glinted under the low winter sun. For the first time, it didn't feel cold. It felt like possibility. Rowan cleared his throat softly. When you're discharged, you'll need support at home. Stress management, rest, a safe environment. I'll make one, she said simply, even if I have to build it from scratch. Her quiet determination hit him harder than she knew. Harlow, he said, taking a measured breath. Whatever happens next, you're not alone anymore. She didn't fully understand what he meant. Not yet. But something in his tone, steady, warm, unshaken, made her believe him. And as the evening light spilled across her room, Harlow realized she wasn't just surviving. She was beginning to rise. News travels fast in Manhattan, but nothing spreads faster than scandal, especially when luxury, betrayal, and a pregnant wife are involved. By the next morning, the first crack appeared. A nurse, frustrated after Serena's rude phone call, had quietly mentioned the situation during her break. Someone overheard. Someone else recognized Chase Everett's name. He wasn't famous, but he wasn't small either. His company, Everett & Co. Marketing, frequently flaunted its family values branding across social media. The hypocrisy was too delicious for the gossip channels to ignore. Within hours, a blurry photo of Chase leaving the Langham with Serena taken by a valet appeared online with the headline, "Married executive spotted leaving hotel with mystery woman while pregnant wife hospitalized." It spread like wildfire. Chase, still half asleep beside Serena, didn't notice until his phone exploded with notifications. His company group chat was melting down. Investors were demanding answers. And his PR team sent the message he feared most. "We need to talk. Now." But worse than the headlines, worse than the whispers, were the comments. His poor wife? She's pregnant? And he's doing this? Trash. Absolute trash. Serena gasped when she saw the article. "Chase, this is bad. This is really bad." He shot up from the bed, rubbing his temples. "This wasn't supposed to get out. Who took this picture?" "Does it matter?" she snapped. "People already think you abandoned your pregnant wife for me." Chase groaned, pacing the room. "I need to get ahead of this. I need a statement. Damage control." In the hospital, Harlow didn't know anything yet. She sat quietly, eating ice chips while Rowan reviewed her vitals. His presence was calm, grounding. Then her phone buzzed again, this time, not with cruelty. A message from her coworker read, "Harlow, are you okay? I saw the news." She blinked. "News?" She clicked the link and the headline slammed into her like a punch. Her hands trembled, her breathing quickened. And yet, beneath the sting of humiliation, something unexpected stirred. Relief. For months, she had carried the truth alone, carried the weight of his betrayal while pretending everything was fine. But now, the world saw him for who he really was. Rowan noticed her expression. "Harlow? What's wrong?" She handed him the phone. As he read the article, his jaw tightened, not with shock, but with a quiet, simmering anger he rarely let anyone see. "This isn't your burden anymore," he said softly. He exposed himself. For the first time, Harlow felt it too. Maybe losing Chase wasn't the tragedy she thought it was. Maybe it was the beginning of her freedom. The moment the article went viral, the entire hospital seemed to buzz differently. Nurses whispered. Orderlies stared just a little too long. Even patients scrolling through their phones paused when Harlow's story appeared on their screens. For the first time, Harlow Bennett wasn't invisible. She wasn't the quiet wife left behind in the shadows. She was the woman people were rooting for. But she didn't feel powerful. Not yet. When the social worker returned that afternoon, her tone had completely changed. "Miss Bennett, I'm so sorry you're going through this. We'll make sure you and your baby receive every possible support." Just yesterday, the woman had been stiff, clinical, almost dismissive. But now, sympathy softened her features. Respect colored her words. It was amazing, Harlow realized, how quickly people saw you differently once the truth about the person standing beside you came out. Still, after the social worker left, a heavy silence settled over Harlow's room. She stared at the article again, scrolling through comment after comment. Each one was supportive, outraged on her behalf, but the shame still pricked her skin. Rowan walked in, moments later, immediately sensing the shift. "You're quiet," he said gently. "I didn't want the world to find out like this," she whispered. "I never wanted my pain to be entertainment." "It's not entertainment, Harlow," Rowan said, pulling up a chair. It's revelation. People aren't judging you, they're seeing your strength. She looked away. I don't feel strong. Rowan leaned forward, lowering his voice. Strength isn't loud. It doesn't roar. Sometimes it breaks. Sometimes it trembles. But it doesn't disappear. His words hit deeper than she expected. Her throat tightened. Then, unexpectedly, another buzz from her phone. This time, from Chase. We need to talk. Don't do anything stupid. I'll come by the hospital tonight. Harlow stared at the message, a bitter laugh escaping her. Not concern, not apology, just control. Even now, he only cared about his image, afraid she might speak, might reveal, might finally stop protecting him. Rowan read the tension in her face. He doesn't deserve a place in this room, he said quietly. And for the first time, she believed it. As snow continued falling over the city outside, coating everything in white, Harlow felt something shift inside her, small but sure. A decision forming, a boundary rising, a strength awakening. The world knew who Chase Everett was now, and soon he would learn exactly who Harlow Bennett had become. The following morning, Harlow awoke to the quiet hum of the hospital, but something felt different, sharper, heavier, like the air had shifted overnight. She wasn't the same woman who had arrived here terrified and alone. No, something inside her had hardened, settled, decided, and Rowan noticed immediately. You slept a little, he said, scanning her vitals. That's good. I need to know everything, Harlow replied, voice steady. Every medical detail, every complication, every risk. If Chase tries to twist the truth, I need to be ready. There it was, the spark Rowan had been waiting for. He nodded. Then we'll go through it together. He pulled up her charts, explaining each number, each concern, each step of treatment. And as he spoke, Harlow began writing things down, dates, times, symptoms, conversations. A record, a defense, a shield. You're documenting, Rowan said with quiet approval. I've spent my whole life trusting the wrong people, Harlow murmured. I can't afford that anymore. Just then, her nurse, a soft-spoken woman named Camille, knocked gently on the door. She hesitated, then stepped inside. Miss Bennett, I don't want to overstep, but I thought you should see this. She handed Harlow a printed report from the night she was admitted. The timestamp was clear, so was the note written by the ER team. Patient arrived alone. Husband unreachable. Multiple emergency calls unanswered. Harlow's stomach twisted, but not with sorrow this time. With validation? This helps you, Camille said softly. If he tries to blame you for anything, the truth is already recorded. Harlow whispered, thank you. And she meant it from somewhere deep. When Camille left, Rowan crossed his arms, watching her carefully. You know, he said, most people break when betrayal hits this hard. You're doing the opposite. I don't want revenge, Harlow replied. I want the truth on paper. I want safety for my daughter. And I want Chase to face the consequences he spent years avoiding. Rowan held her gaze. He will. But the shift inside her wasn't just about Chase. It was about reclaiming her voice, something she hadn't realized she'd lost until now. As she organized the papers, phone buzzed with yet another message from Chase. Don't make this messy. Keep quiet. We'll handle it privately. Harlow's hands stilled. Rowan looked at her. What did he say? She met his eyes, clarity sharp as glass. He's afraid. And for the first time since everything began, Harlow felt something powerful rise within her. Not fear, not sadness. Control. Chase Everett had always believed he was untouchable, the kind of man who could cheat, lie, manipulate, then walk into a boardroom the next morning and charm investors with a smile. But the scandal spreading across Manhattan's corporate circles told a different story, one where he was the punchline. His assistant met him at the office door with panic in her eyes. Chase, the partners want an emergency meeting. Now, inside the conference room, 3 senior executives stared at him like he was a virus infecting their brand. Is it true? One asked. Your wife is hospitalized while you're at the Langham? Another added. And the Mistress went public? Chase clenched his jaw. It's being exaggerated. No, the CEO snapped. It's damaging our reputation. Clients are threatening to pull out. Chase swallowed hard. Consequences were never part of his worldview. Until now. Meanwhile, in the hospital, Rowan entered Harlow's room with a folder in hand. "I think you need to see this," he said, offering it gently. Inside were copies of the hospital's security logs, including the record of Serena calling for updates, claiming she was authorized to make medical decisions. Harlow's breath caught. "She tried to act as my proxy?" Rowan nodded. "She wanted access to your file. The staff refused, of course. Of course, because Serena wasn't family. But Chase had planned for her to become exactly that." The realization tightened Harlow's grip around the papers. He wasn't just replacing me emotionally, he was replacing me legally. And that truth didn't break her. It ignited her. Rowan saw the shift in her posture, shoulders squaring, voice sharpening. "Harlow, you don't deserve any of this," he said softly. "No," she replied. "I don't, and I won't let him decide my life anymore." Her phone buzzed again. A voicemail from Chase this time. She pressed play. "Harlow, the media is blowing things out of proportion. Don't do anything stupid. I'll fix this, but you need to cooperate. We'll talk when I get there." Cooperate? Stupid. He still thought she belonged under his thumb. Rowan stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You don't owe him anything. Not explanation, not forgiveness, not silence." Harlow looked up, eyes clear, unwavering. "He wanted to replace me?" she said. "Fine. Then he can learn what it feels like to be replaced." Outside her window, the storm clouds were beginning to break, soft beams of light cutting through the gray. It felt symbolic, because Chase Everett's fall had only just begun. And Harlow Bennett's rise was no longer just a possibility. It was inevitable. Serena Cole had always known she was dancing on thin ice, but she never expected it to crack beneath her so quickly. When she first got involved with Chase Everett, she thought she was stepping into a glamorous new life. Private dinners, luxury hotels, gifts delivered in sleek black bags from Fifth Avenue. She never expected the internet to brand her the other woman overnight. Now her phone buzzed nonstop with comments ranging from mocking to vicious. Homewrecker, gold digger, pregnant wife in the hospital. Really? She tossed the phone onto the bed at the Langham, pacing as panic bubbled in her throat. "Chase, this is getting out of control." But Chase, still convinced he could charm his way out of public outrage, simply adjusted his tie. "It'll blow over." Scandals always do. "No," she snapped. "Not this one. Not with a pregnant woman in the hospital." He groaned. "Harlow is being dramatic." "Chase," Serena's voice cracked. "Her doctor posted a medical update. She's legitimately at risk. People feel sorry for her, and they hate us." He flinched at the word us. "Look," he said, softening his tone. "I need you calm. I can't deal with your emotions right now." Something inside Serena twisted at that sharp, bitter. She had watched him speak to Harlow the same way in the past, dismissive and cold. And suddenly, she understood. He didn't love her. He didn't love anyone. He loved control. Her panic slid into anger. "Chase," she said slowly, "you told me you were leaving her." "I am," he said, "but I need time, and you need to stop making this harder." Oh, there it was. The truth she had refused to see. Serena sank onto the edge of the bed, chest tightening. She remembered the hospital, her call, where she tried to get information about Harlow. In her mind, she believed she was helping Chase move forward. Now she realized she had stepped into something cruel, messy, and dangerous. She wasn't replacing Harlow. She was being used to push Harlow out. And suddenly, Serena wasn't angry at the internet anymore. She was angry at Chase. When he went into the bathroom to answer another call, she opened her laptop. Fingers trembling, she pulled up her email and typed a message to an address she found in the news articles. To Dr. Rowan Maxwell, "I have information about Chase Everett. Information Harlow deserves to know." She hovered for a moment. Then hit send. For the first time, Serena didn't feel like the villain. She felt like the match that was about to burn Chase Everett's world down. The next morning, a quiet murmur rippled through Mount Sinai's lobby, an energy Harlow felt even before Rowan entered her room. She was sitting upright, hands resting protectively on her belly, when he stepped inside holding his tablet with an expression that was equal parts concern and something like triumph. "Harlow," Rowan said, pulling a chair beside her bed. "You should see this." Her pulse skipped. "What now?" He handed her the tablet. Front page. Bold headline. Thousands of shares. Pregnant woman hospitalized after husband's hotel tryst. Witness reveals disturbing details. A witness? Her stomach tightened. Scrolling down, she saw an anonymous statement from someone claiming to have been inside the Langham the night Chase and Serena arrived. The witness described Chase drinking heavily, boasting that his wife played victim too well, and laughing when Serena suggested they block her calls for the night. Harlow's breath caught. She knew Chase was selfish. She didn't know he was cruel. Then Rowan spoke, gently but deliberately. This came from Serena. Harlow's eyebrows lifted. The mistress? She sent me an email late last night. She didn't want to be part of his lie anymore. A strange mix of gratitude and disbelief washed over her. Serena, the woman who once tried to replace her, now helping expose Chase? Life rarely played fair, but sometimes it delivered poetic justice. Internet comments were pouring in, louder than ever. Poor Harlow. Men like Chase shouldn't breathe the same air as decent people. Strength to this mama. She deserved better. For once, Harlow didn't shrink from the attention. She allowed herself to feel seen not for the scandal, but for surviving it. Rowan studied her quietly. How are you feeling? Harlow exhaled slowly. Like the truth is finally louder than him. He nodded. Good. It's about time. Just then, Camille the nurse peeked in. Miss Bennett, there's something happening downstairs. The press is outside. They want your statement. Harlow's heart hammered, but not with fear. With something else, something steadier. I'll speak, she said, but not as his wife. As a mother fighting for her daughter. Rowan's eyes warmed with approval. I'll go with you. As they moved through the hallway, Harlow felt the weight of every step, each one pulling her further from the woman who once tiptoed around her husband's moods, and closer to the woman who finally understood her own worth. Outside the hospital entrance, microphones and cameras swarmed the steps. Snowflakes drifted around her like falling ash, the city buzzing with anticipation. For the first time, Harlow wasn't trembling. She was ready. Chase Everett wanted to protect his image. But today, Harlow Bennett would protect her truth. Chase Everett always believed he could outrun consequences. For years, charm had been his currency, lies his safety net, and privilege his shield. But on this particular morning, nothing, not his polished reputation, not his expensive suit, not even his carefully curated arrogance, could save him. Because today, the world finally turned its gaze directly on him. He arrived at the office expecting chaos, but he wasn't prepared for what greeted him. Security guards standing beside HR, a cardboard box waiting on a desk, and the CEO staring at him with exhausted disgust. Chase, the CEO said, we've reviewed the witness report, we've seen the footage, and we've read your wife's medical documentation. Chase swallowed. This is getting blown way out of proportion. No, the CEO cut in sharply. This is exactly what it looks like. You abandoned your pregnant wife in a medical emergency. You lied to the company. And worst of all, your behavior has damaged our brand beyond repair. Chase opened his mouth, but the CEO held up a hand. You're terminated, effective immediately. The words crashed down like ice water. Chase stared, stunned, as the HR representative slid paperwork across the table. His career, everything he'd built, everything he bragged about vanished in minutes. He didn't sign. Couldn't. His hands were shaking too much. Meanwhile, at Mount Sinai, Harlow stood beside Rowan outside the front entrance as reporters called her name. Her statement had already begun circulating online, measured, calm, honest. She didn't attack. She didn't dramatize. She simply told the truth. I called my husband because I feared for my daughter's life, and he never came. Her strength resonated everywhere. Commentators called her brave. Mothers called her inspiring. And quietly, people inside Chase's industry began cutting ties. One by one, unwilling to associate with a man whose cruelty was now public record. Hours later, Chase stormed into the hospital, face red with fury and humiliation. Security followed closely behind him, ready. You're ruining my life, he shouted the moment he saw Harlow. She turned to face him, not shrinking, not trembling, calm. You ruined your own life, Chase. You talked to the press. You made me look like a monster. Her voice was steady. You looked like a monster because you were one. Security stepped forward, but Harlow lifted a hand. It's fine, he's leaving. Chase's face contorted. You'll regret this. No, she said softly. For the first time, I won't. It wasn't anger in her voice. It was finality. And as Chase was escorted out of Mount Sinai, cameras flashing, reporters shouting, and the internet celebrating his downfall, Harlow felt a quiet truth settle inside her. This wasn't just justice. It was freedom. The hours after Chase's public meltdown felt strangely calm, like the eye of a storm Harlow never asked to enter. But inside that calm was something she hadn't felt in months. Room to breathe. Snowflakes drifted past her hospital window as she rested back against her pillows. Her daughter's heartbeat on the monitor had steadied. Her own breathing felt lighter. It was the first moment she allowed herself to imagine a life without fear and with possibility. Rowan entered quietly, holding warm chamomile tea in a paper cup. "How are you feeling?" he asked, sitting beside her bed. Harlow took the cup, wrapping her fingers around its heat. Stronger, and she meant it. He watched her for a moment, as if ensuring the strength wasn't just a brave front. "You handled what happened today with grace most people don't have under pressure." "I didn't feel graceful," she admitted. "I felt tired. Done. And maybe that's what let me finally speak." Rowan smiled faintly. Sometimes exhaustion forces honesty. They shared a quiet moment, one that didn't feel heavy. For the first time, someone sat with her without expecting anything, no performance, no apologies, no emotional labor. Just presence. After a pause, Rowan said gently, "There's something else you should know." Serena sent another message. "More evidence. Screenshots. Dates. She wants to help you protect your rights and your daughter." Harlow blinked. "She's really turning against him?" Rowan nodded. "People eventually reveal who they are. She made a mistake, but she's trying to correct it. That counts for something." Harlow exhaled, feeling another piece of weight loosen. "I guess everyone has their breaking point." Rowan leaned back slightly, his expression softening. "And everyone deserves a second beginning." Those words lingered in the air, warm, unexpected, comforting. A nurse entered briefly to check vitals. When she left, Rowan stayed seated. He didn't rush, didn't glance at his watch, didn't treat her like a task on a clipboard. He simply existed beside her as if he understood exactly what she needed. Quiet reassurance. "You know," Harlow said softly, "I thought losing Chase meant losing my future. But now, I think I was losing myself by staying with him." Rowan nodded. "You're not alone in that realization." Their eyes met, gently, no urgency, no expectation, just understanding. A bridge, not a leap. Outside, the snowstorm eased, leaving Manhattan washed in soft white. Inside, Harlow felt something else settling. Not love, not yet, but trust, and the faint, steady beginning of hope. The next morning, Harlow woke to the soft rhythm of monitors and the distant sound of nurses starting their shifts. But the peace didn't last long. Rowan entered her room, holding a stack of documents, thick, heavy, ominous. "Harlow," he said gently, "Chase filed a petition." Her stomach twisted. "For what?" Rowan exhaled. "For joint medical decision rights and partial custody once the baby is born." It felt like the floor disappeared beneath her. After abandoning her in an emergency, after replacing himself with his mistress in her hospital file, after humiliating her publicly, Chase now wanted control. "He thinks the backlash will fade," Rowan explained, "and he's trying to regain leverage before it's too late." Harlow's hands curled into fists. For months, she let Chase dictate the terms of her life. But now? No, not anymore. "What are my options?" she asked, her voice steady, surprising even herself. Rowan handed her a business card. "This attorney specializes in cases involving medical neglect. She's good. Very good." Harlow traced the embossed letters with her thumb. Hiring an attorney felt like a line she'd never imagined crossing, but now it felt like survival. Just then, Camille stepped in with a tablet. "Miss Bennett, you're going to want to see this." The screen showed a leaked email thread from Chase's own company. Chase complaining that Harlow was milking pregnancy for sympathy. Chase calling her mentally weak and a liability. Chase joking about starting a new family upgrade. Harlow's breath caught. "Where did this come from?" "Anonymous submission," Camille said. "People are tired of protecting him." The truth was snowballing, growing heavier, louder, impossible to bury. Rowan placed a reassuring hand on the rail of her bed. With this evidence, his petition won't just fail, it may be turned against him. Judges don't take kindly to men who endanger pregnant partners. Harlow nodded slowly. For the first time, she didn't feel afraid of Chase's power. She saw how flimsy it really was, how much of it depended on silence from the people he hurt. Her phone buzzed with a message from Chase. "You're embarrassing us both. Withdraw your statements or this gets ugly." Harlow didn't hesitate. She typed back, "It's already ugly, and you made it that way." She sent it. No shaking hands. No second guessing. When she looked up, Rowan was watching her with quiet pride. "You're not just fighting back," he said. "You're winning." Outside, sunlight spilled across Manhattan, melting the last of the storm. Inside, Harlow felt something melt too, the last remnants of fear chained to her past. Now, she was stepping into battle not as a victim, but as a woman reclaiming her life. By late afternoon, the winter sun dipped low behind Manhattan's skyline, casting long shadows across Harlow's hospital room. She felt different today, still fragile, still healing, but standing on a foundation she had built herself. Every document, every message, every witness statement had shifted the balance of power. And Chase knew it, because he showed up again. This time, security didn't need prompting. They followed him closely, ready. But Chase raised his hands dramatically. "I'm just here to talk," he snapped. "My wife owes me that much." Harlow didn't flinch. "Your ex-wife, soon enough." Chase smirked. "Cute. But you're not winning this. You think the public cares about your sob story forever? They'll move on. And when they do, I'll take back control." Rowan stepped forward, calm but unyielding. "You need to leave, Mr. Everett." Chase scoffed. "I wasn't talking to you, Doctor." Rowan didn't blink. "She doesn't want you here." "That's enough." Harlow watched the exchange, two men standing on opposite sides of the truth. And for the first time, she didn't feel overshadowed. She felt centered. "Chase," she said, her voice steady, "you filed for partial custody, medical rights, after leaving me during an emergency?" He rolled his eyes. "You're being dramatic. You blocked my calls. I needed space. You removed yourself from my emergency contacts. That was a mistake. You let your mistress call my hospital room to ask about my pregnancy." His face twitched just enough to reveal fear beneath the arrogance. She continued, "And you told your coworkers I was milking pregnancy for sympathy." Chase paled. "You weren't supposed to see that, but I did." Her voice dropped. "And so will a judge." Finally, the confidence cracked. "Harlow, you're angry. I get it, but you need me. Our daughter needs me. We can fix this." She shook her head softly. "I don't need a man who shows up only when he's afraid of losing." Then she said the words that broke him. "You can't control me anymore." Chase lunged forward slightly, but Rowan stepped between them. Taller, steadier, protective, without being possessive. "Leave," Rowan said. "Now, before this becomes a legal issue, you can't spin." Security moved in, and Chase was forced to back away. As they escorted him down the hallway, he turned one last time. "You'll regret this, Harlow." But she didn't tremble. "I already regret staying with you." The doors closed behind Chase. Silence filled the room, warm, victorious, solid. Rowan turned to her. "Are you okay?" Harlow exhaled, releasing months of fear. "Yes," she said. "For the first time, yes." Outside, the last of the snow melted under the fading light. Inside, Harlow Bennett stood firm. No longer a woman living in fear, but a woman who had claimed her voice. The courtroom felt colder than Harlow expected, all marble floors and polished oak benches. But she walked in with her chin lifted, her belly supported by her hands, and a calm she had earned through fire. Rowan accompanied her not inside counsel, but steady moral ground. Her attorney, Miss Carver, stood ready beside her, a woman whose confidence could cut steel. Across the aisle, Chase Everett looked nothing like the polished executive he once pretended to be. The scandal had carved years into his face. His suit hung slightly off his frame, and for the first time, he didn't try to smile his way out of consequences. The judge entered. The room hushed. "Miss Bennett," the judge began, "your counsel has submitted substantial documentation. We've also received statements from medical personnel, including evidence that your husband was unreachable during your emergency admission." Chase's attorney shifted nervously. Chase glared at him. "Miss." Carver rose. "Your Honor, Not only was Mr. Everett unreachable, he intentionally blocked communication. He replaced himself with his mistress in his wife's medical records. He then petitioned for custody and decision-making rights after the damage was done. She paused for effect. This is not a father seeking involvement. This is a man seeking control he abandoned when his wife needed him most. The judge nodded. Noted. Then came the blow Chase didn't expect. The judge turned to him. Mr. Everett, your behavior demonstrates negligence, emotional cruelty, and a pattern of manipulation toward your pregnant spouse. Given the evidence, including testimony from your own mistress, this court denies your petition for custody and medical authority. Chase's eyes widened, panic rising. The judge continued, firmer now. Furthermore, you are ordered to pay full medical expenses, ongoing support, and damages for emotional distress. You will have supervised visitation only, contingent upon therapy and a formal evaluation. Supervised? Chase sputtered. This is ridiculous. She's turning everyone against me. No, the judge said, unmoved. Your actions did that. A ripple of satisfaction moved through the courtroom, quiet but powerful. Harlow didn't gloat. She didn't smirk. She simply breathed, her shoulders loosening with a relief she hadn't felt in months. Rowan glanced at her, eyes warm with pride. As the gavel fell, Chase stood frozen, life collapsing around him, consequences finally catching up. His attorney tried to speak, but Chase brushed him off, storming out of the room with a face twisted in disbelief. Harlow remained seated, letting the moment settle, letting justice settle. Rowan leaned toward her. It's over now. She nodded slowly. No, it's beginning. For the first time, those words didn't feel frightening. They felt like freedom. Spring arrived slowly in Manhattan, melting the last traces of winter from the sidewalks. The air felt softer, lighter, almost symbolic. Harlow Bennett stepped outside Mount Sinai for her final prenatal check before delivery, her coat unbuttoned over her round belly, her step steady and confident. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't walking out alone. Rowan waited by the curb, leaning against his car, hands in his pockets, watching her with a warmth that had become familiar, safe. When he saw her, he smiled, the kind of smile that brought light into places she once thought would stay dark forever. All good? He asked. She's perfect, Harlow said, placing a hand over her belly. And ready? They began walking down the sidewalk as cherry blossoms drifted from the trees lining the street. The world felt new, untouched. Harlow breathed it in slowly. So, Rowan began, a hint of hesitation in his voice. Now that the custody case is settled and Chase is out of the picture, what do you want next? Harlow paused, not because she didn't know the answer, but because she finally allowed herself to say it aloud. I want peace, she said. A real home, and a life where my daughter grows up knowing what love is supposed to feel like. Rowan nodded. You deserve all of that. His sincerity warmed her more than the sunlight. They reached a quiet bench under a blooming tree. Rowan gently helped her sit before taking the spot next to her. After a moment, he reached into his jacket, pulling out a small velvet box, not flashy, not extravagant, thoughtful. Harlow blinked. Rowan? He opened it. Inside wasn't a ring. It was a delicate silver bracelet engraved with her daughter's due date. This isn't a proposal, Rowan said softly. Not yet. This is something else. A promise that whatever pace you choose, whatever life you build, I'd be honored to be part of it, if you'll have me. Harlow felt her eyes sting not from sadness, but from a fullness she hadn't felt in years. Rowan, yes, she whispered, I'd like that very much. A breeze swept through the park, scattering petals around them like blessings. In the distance, life continued, cars, laughter, the hum of the city. But here, in this small corner of Manhattan, Harlow Bennett stepped into her future with clarity. Chase Everett lost everything because he treated love like ownership. Harlow gained everything because she learned love begins with self-worth. Her daughter would be born into a world where her mother stood tall, not because she never fell, but because she rose every single time. And this time, she wasn't rising alone. And just like that, our story comes to a close. But my friend, yes, you, the one still here with me, if you made it all the way to this moment, then something in Harlow's journey touched your heart in a way you maybe didn't expect. Maybe it reminded you of something you survived. Maybe it whispered a truth you already knew but needed to hear again. So now, Let's breathe together and look at this story through a new lens. Life will break you, people will disappoint you, but as the Stoics said, the obstacle is the way. What tried to destroy Harlow became the very thing that rebuilt her. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." And that's exactly what she learned. Peace begins the moment you stop handing your power to those who never deserved it. If her story teaches us anything, let it be this: your worth isn't defined by who abandons you, but by who you become afterward. If this touched something inside you, even a little, please like, share, and subscribe. Not for the algorithm, but so we can keep walking these journeys together, one story and one healing at a time. You're not alone, not here.